Every day in the USA, people find themselves in court.
Present. Is this Judge Simpson?
Chambers is here.
Are you Judge Simpson?
No.
Well, who is it then?
The judge is on the break. He'll be back in just a few minutes, okay?
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'm a huge fan of Judge Simpson. I watch his YouTubes like nonstop. He's great. He is like the best banter.
So,
Okay.
so the victim
Just
asked,
say who she is.
Mr. Ostermiller.
Mr. Ostermiller.
Boy, this does not go down
No.
this plan.
No. I'm done.
Who is this woman? And who is she to speak
3
to my
o'clock.
character?
Mute him.
Mr. Ostermiller,
I grant the people's motion to revoke bond. The court is also a bench warrant will issue for the defendant's failure to appear as ordered.
Court does call the case of the people versus Jeffrey Ostermiller.
thank you.
All right.
And where are we on this case?
Your Honor, I understand that this case has been quite interesting in the last week here. I believe that all of the events in this case, given both the underlying facts of the case, the bond violation, as well as what happened during last week's hearing, are all a result of Mr. Ostermiller's relapse. He has been in recovery. He would like to state an apology to you, and I know he'll be able to give you more details, but I know that he's been engaged with going to AA meetings for quite some time. He also has been doing an intensive outpatient program, and obviously he had a pretty severe relapse, and that is the reason that his behavior had fallen out of line. He is very apologetic. He has reached out to the intensive outpatient program that he's been working with, and they did confirm that if he is able to be released, that he can get back engaged with their services immediately. And I do think that that is what is in his best interest for his recovery. He is willing to comply with any conditions that you would impose upon him to allow him to be released today. So that is our stance. And again, I believe that Mr. Ostermiller would like to give you his apologies personally as well.
Mr. Ostermiller.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Reed said an awful lot of it, but yeah. During my last appearance, I was disruptive and extremely disrespectful to this court. I'd like to apologize both to the prosecutor and especially to you, Your Honor, and offer you my assurances that it will never happen again. Ms. Reed was correct. This was a direct result of a relapse that started around Friday, September 8th. And to be quite frank, I got complacent in my recovery and got to a point where I felt it was okay if I could have a few, and that is obviously not the case. So This past week that I've been here in jail, as she mentioned, I reached out to the head of the IOP program that I'm in, and she said that once I'm out, I could start back up in the program as soon as this evening if possible. And I plan on continuing on with that, as well as attending both of the AA meetings that I do daily attend.
Anything from the people?
Your Honor, it was evident at the last hearing that Mr. Ostermiller was under the influence of some kind of substances. I understand his history with substance abuse. I don't have an objection to him being released to treatment, but I would ask for a GPS tether with the hot zone as the facility so that if he leaves that we are alerted immediately.
Mr. Ostermiller, I don't know what that was that we saw before on September 11th. You were absolutely out of control.
Agreed.
And what worries me is if I release you, even with the conditions of home confinement with the scram tether, I don't know whether or not you can really comply. Court does call the case, People versus Jeffrey Ostermiller.
Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Morgan Barroso on behalf of the people.
Bridget Coons on behalf of Mr. Ostermiller. Mr. Ostermiller, state your name for the record.
Jeffrey Ostermiller.
Claire on behalf of probation. Your Honor, Mr. Ostermiller is scheduled before the court today on a violation of probation. Mr. Ostermiller was arrested on February 24th, 2024 on a violation of the contact order. So the court is aware Mr. Ostermiller at that time did have no non-consensual contact with the victim in this case. There was an incident that took place at her home. She asked him to leave. And in the police report that I reviewed, Your Honor, it took him multiple minutes before he left the premises or left the house. He was in the garage when police arrived, and he was arrested due to the contact order. Mr. Ostermiller was in custody. He was arraigned. The magistrate then put in place a no bond with the victim in this case, and bond was set. Mr. Ostermiller posted bond on February 26th, and he was released. Since that time, Your Honor, I did receive documentation from the victim in this case where Mr. Ostermiller has continued to communicate with her, multiple communications via text, emails, Google Docs, and I have provided all documentation to the court.
Yes.
Given the continued violation of the contact order and the prior violations from Mr. Ostermiller in this case, in entirety, probation is now asking that the court sentence Mr. Ostermiller to 93 days in jail, credit for 27 days that he's served on this case, and to serve the balance. But the court applied the bond that he posted recently, which was a $5,010. That is in his name. I would ask that the court apply that to his outstanding financial, waive remaining terms, accept his other financial obligations, discharge him from probation without improvement.
Your Honor, at this time, Mr. Ostermiller does deny the allegations, and we would ask for this to be set up for a hearing. In the meantime, we'd ask that he be able to continue bond. He has completed some of the components through probation. I think that he is trying.
Oh, he's in Ann Arbor. Why doesn't he come down? We can do the hearing today.
I'm staying with my mother in Santa Cruz.
How far is that?
About an hour and a half.
I got time.
I have no transportation, Your Honor.
Well, you want me to send somebody to get you?
I'd prefer if there were any alternative, I would take it.
So you can come down or we can come get you. Which would you prefer?
If you need me to come down, I can make every arrangement possible to try to come down.
And what I'll do is I'll adjourn this matter to 3 o'clock. Well, what time is it? 1:30? I'll adjourn this matter to 3:30.
Thank you.
Thank you. Court does call the case of the People versus Oscar Miller.
Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Morgan Burrows on behalf of the people.
Bridget Coons on behalf of Mr. Ostermiller. Oh. If you can state your name for the record.
Jeffrey Ostermiller.
All right. I think we went through on Zoom the violations that are alleged and the recommendation, but you may go ahead, Ms. Coons.
Your Honor, at this time, my client would like to admit to the violations. And we would be asking that the court depart from the recommendations for good cause. He is, as far as the no contact goes, we in no means mean to excuse it. But he received 7 texts before he replied to the victim in this case. Again, I'm not trying to mitigate it. He understands that that was against court order, but he felt that at that time it would have been okay to reply since she was texting him so much. As to everything else,
Well, which about the first incident then?
the consensual contact or non.
That turned into non-consensual contact.
So as far as that goes, Mr. Ostermiller, I think that there's an issue with the police report. Our focus is more so he admits to the text and calls. As to the consensual contact, he was told to leave. He was packing his bag. The police had arrived to the house.
Before I was told to leave. Correct.
Yeah. And then at that point, he was arrested. He is currently inside individual therapy. He goes once a week. He discusses issues like this, including his relationship. He even has an appointment today at 4 o'clock. He's currently in the domestic violence program. He's 12 classes down, has one that he's supposed to go to tonight as well. He completed the intensive outpatient program, finished that inside November. He's been compliant with the sober link. Currently,
5 days.
5 days.
5 days shy of my 6-month chip.
Yeah, 6 months sober. He goes to AA meetings daily and does have a sponsor with the 12 Coconuts home group. He does have a full-time job at Michigan Medicine and works inside the IT department. He has 2 upcoming huge projects with deadlines that he'd like to try to meet, as well as he's in the process of reconciling with his children. I do have 2 letters from Recovery Technology and Hagira Health Incorporated. He went to their programmings and both of them said that he was doing well in them and he was very much participated inside the activities. So we asked that he be allowed to continue with probation. And I think that he is apologetic about the scenario.
Anything from the people?
No, Your Honor, we ask that you follow the Ms. Flores' recommendation.
All right. Anything else from probation?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Ostermiller, we've tried to work with you through this case and the reports I get, and it's part of the problem is that rather than following what should be done, you always want to do things your own way and allow you a little bit of latitude, and you just continue to not follow what we're asking you to do. I don't understand after being arrested the first time, why even after 7, 10, 15, 20 texts, I don't even understand why you respond. I don't even get it.
I should have blocked the number. I should have done anything but contact her back. I should have. I take full responsibility that. It was a lapse in judgment. It was a lesson learned that will never be repeated. Until the day that I die, I will never contact Miss Mason, make any attempt to contact her, go to her place of residence or work, or anything. I want to be as far away from this woman in this relationship as possible.
Anything else you want to tell me, sir?
I made a big mistake. I made a big mistake this week. It is not a mistake that I will repeat ever.
I just don't understand. I'm going to waive all remaining terms except the financial obligations. I'll discharge the defendant from probation without improvement. The $500 bond that he applied will be applied to the fines and costs in this case. Sir, I'm done. I give people chances all the time. And I don't understand the arrest, get arraigned, then contact. Makes no sense to me. And I think it's because of the way that you try to do things through your probation, and that is try to do things your way. And if it hadn't been for Miss Blair correcting you before it got to me, this day probably would have come long before now. But the way that this is going to be now is I'm going to order 93 days in jail. I'll give you credit for the 27 that you served. I am going to order that the defendant is to serve the balance. Defendant is remanded.